for that addition in this fiscal year.
Oh,
Okay, perfect.
So I can run that contract.
Thank you.
Tracy said, she said about the 20th. I wonder if it's,
If I have it here, I was gonna forward it to you again, but I'm really struggling trying to find the server.
oh. I think Marie, some contracts she said didn't have weights of travel. Well, the first one, I've just pulled them. So I don't know if there's one in the link somewhere, but it didn't have weights of travel.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the bills.
I'll make a motion, we approve the bills.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We need roll call.
No.
Tammy was gonna do roll call, it threw me off.
I was.
Thanks, Ginger.
We go to the trainings, they say we should, and I think we're good though.
Make it unanimous.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ginger, for all that hard work, they appreciate it. All right, next item is gonna be the minutes for June. I think we've seen those and made some corrections. Any other concerns or questions or?
Is this,
Yeah, just scroll down a little bit more.
Should be the amended.
this is the amended one?
Should be.
Okay. I just kind of had the last one.
I know, sorry.
Some-
Shouldn't multitask and do.
No, I know, I have too much stuff going on.
You're no idea.
Scroll down a little more, please.
I'm trying to think where it's
Keep going.
Yeah, I think you need to put each on there. Funding request is $200 each, or
Okay.
for each
For
city,
each meeting, okay.
or community, or whatever you want.
Yeah, cause this song's just
What,
$4 for all three.
Oh, you did?
It kind of
Underneath-
clarifies it.
Underneath,
right?
I'm extra. No, you're fine. I haven't read the motion. Motion to authorize payment of $200.
To each city.
Community paying of each city. So
And I only
you
got
got
one so far, the other two not invoices.
Okay.
I can't really pay without an invoice.
Well,
And they are aware of it.
okay.
Scroll down just a little more, Steph.
closure. That's an enemy for, Rocky Ford and county to access, to spray the weeds and access is the only way to get to the reservoir. So we're gonna have to decide that. And I can document it if we need to document it, but
Okay.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say something about it.
Not go down on old business if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
All right, so now.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, can we, just move declaring the public hearing closed before the vote?
Yes. I thought about that too.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Okay, I'll fix that.
okay, perfect.
Do you want that?
Oh, this is not the amended version. So that still says Grant County instead of Grand County on that top paragraph.
Over here?
Mhm. Yeah, so, was the other one above it?
No.
Okay, so we got two different grants,
We have two different grounds, yes.
but it's not in this.
Not this minutes.
Scroll up, was it on that other page, Steph?
No, it would have been,
So
took
the-
out.
You took out one but didn't add the other one, didn't change the language.
No, I'll fix that.
So you've got the two separate grants,
So there's the year-round OHV.
OHV for the, let's see, no, yeah, that's
Outdoor.
not right, so.
And an outdoor rec.
So the outdoor rec one is the 5 million, is the 4 million.
4 million.
So the numbers are wrong. So if you leave that where it's at, right there, that's the.
Change that to 4 million.
That's the, no, this would be the 850,000 for the year-round OHV. And then the county has the 150. And so totally separate paragraph.
Okay, the outdoor rec is a 4 million.
This is 4 million total,
Okay.
with no cost share. And I think it's the ORI, Outdoor Rec Initiative, ORI grant.
We had a separate motion on both grants. We had to vote on both grants.
Yeah.
For the amendment, separate paragraph.
Okay. I'll fix that.
Okay, scroll down. That's it, I think, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Sure.
Should the COG meeting minutes be in with the
Well,
commission?
They would be separate minutes, won't they be separate minutes?
Depends on, the agenda was a meeting within a meeting, so it's
Stays the same, okay.
And then you have Forest Service, you can't really put the Forest Service in the commission, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
It-
fine.
I just feel.
I think it's fine, I don't see a
Okay.
problem, because we're not reporting separately.
It's fine.
It should be
Okay.
fine. remember the guy's name that came with Jared.
Yeah, I don't know, he did sign in and didn't have anything to buy, and I tried to,
All right, so now we'll just have with.
I tried to find it, and it's YouTube, I couldn't,
Yeah.
they just started.
So I think that,
Sorry.
I think the
That
swimming
was my
pool
fault.
discussion,
Did it, sorry.
on the swimming pool discussion, I would probably put in there that the two towns, Beaver and Milford,
Okay.
offered to give a one-time increase for this year.
Like they donated their part, that they were gonna donate part of their portion,
Allotment for this
that's
year.
where. To my
Which was,
understanding.
how much was that, do you remember, the exact number?
I don't think
I don't think they knew until they got a bill, but they were thinking upwards of 80,000, so that it could be as much as 80,000. That's what Bill was paid. Or-
Just so that's in there, I guess.
Okay.
that would be their.
Well, I think she's got it though, Beaver City would consider a one-time
Oh, yeah.
reallocation. So I think you just put Milford on
Milford,
there as well.
yeah, yeah.
Just on that very top
Yeah,
line,
you got it, yeah.
just Milford and
At Milford.
Beaver City, yeah.
And that would be for their 2025 allocation, correct? Because we
No,
paid-
I think it's this year.
No, it'd be
It's
24.
this
It'll be
year.
the 24, okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, needs to be under Beaver City. We just need to, get right there, that paragraph split. Like, where it says fields, do you see what I'm saying?
Right there.
It's, yeah, right there where Steph's got it on the screen. It just needs to be backspaced up to tie into that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just got a weird space in there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's 55, yeah.
Yeah, and the armament is only one T, or is it two Ts?
I think it's two.
It's got a cross in it.
I did that just earlier, I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Okay. All right. We good with the changes discussed?
I think so.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the minutes with discussed changes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes with the discussed changes.
He likes to repeat.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make unanimous. All right. Next item on the agenda, Corey, come on up, Old Business Road Department. How are you today, Corey?
I'm good.
Good. Chip sealing done?
We're in the middle of it. We're flushing, fog coating today, flushing, so.
The what?
Fog coating, flushing,
Fog coating?
putting the black coat over
It looks
over
good
the rock.
on the flat road, so it's
Oh.
really good. It was kind of weird, I drove down there in the dark, and I'm like, oh.
It was dark?
It was so.
It's black, like, it's black, there's no lines, there's nothing, and I'm like, I'm not sure my headlights are working very good. At least there's no cows on the road.
So we got a couple more days of it, and we'll be finished with that portion of it anyway. I
Where's
think
that at
we should
again?
be here first of the week.
Where's that at again?
The M&M Road,
Oh.
North Creek Road, North Creek Loop,
Oh, yeah, North Creek Road is, yeah.
yeah. So,
It's getting fogged today.
part of it will, yeah.
Okay.
Mark, give us a little update on the Manderville Highway since we're talking roads real quick.
We should be completed within 2 weeks. They finished asphalt last Thursday. They got some cleanup to do, signs to finish as they get here. Guardrail was short on some parts, they shorted them in their order, but it should be completed this week also. Then it's just some cleanup. Within the next, I think Wednesday, tomorrow, we're gonna do a punch list. And then after that, it's completion, so.
Were they ahead of schedule, on schedule?
We're about a month ahead of schedule, actually.
Really?
3 weeks, yeah.
Well, let's put that somewhere.
Sunrock's been really good.
Line signs are painted and people are, I'm getting pictures.
People are driving down the road, huh?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. If you haven't driven it, get off of Manderfield and come into town. It is beautiful. I wanted to go 90 the whole way. I didn't.
So,
I'm
yeah,
glad you
please
did, I'm
don't.
glad you did
I
as
did it.
well.
We're gonna be in trouble with the neighbors out there, because now people like to speed.
We did have that discussion as we get
Yeah.
a new route, right, nice road.
Now
They will
they're
want
gonna-
speed.
Now they're gonna want
80 miles an hour instead.
speed bumps, and,
That's what happens when you make it smooth and nice.
yep.
Now they're gonna wanna have construction again.
So Jen,
Yes,
resist the urge.
I did. I remember that I
We're
had.
gonna make sure we tell the sheriff's office what your
Yes.
license plate is.
Yes, ma'am. I'll give you all 3 of mine.
All right, Cory, go ahead.
Okay, so a little background here. I reached out to Commissioner Yardley a couple months back about a problem that I felt we had that was pretty bad within our road department. We have knowledge, well-trained men, and people are seeking to employ them, offering them more money than what we can pay, and they're considering taking these offers. So I reached out to Brandon about something that we could do to retain our employees, and we've also had a missing employee in Milford, and we need to replace that one. We're having a hard time recruiting and getting people to apply. So after discussion with Brandon, I've also had discussion with Commissioner Hollingshead. He's also reached out to a few of the guys and discussed things with them. I felt that we needed to do a merit increase to a few of these men to keep them here. I've been able to find the money within my budget to do this merit increase, easy enough. The thought was $3.50 to bring these guys up. And again, that money was found within my budget. Also, the starting wage, raising it $3 per hour. So our new employees that have been here within the year, they would just get a $3 increase. The other 5 would get $3.50.
Just to clarify, it's $3 if they have a CDL and only 50 cents if they do not have a CDL. Is that where we ended on that?
As far as the hiring?
The new hire.
The new hires, yes.
Okay.
The hard part is a person without a CDL is not a lot of help to me. It's,
So you probably wouldn't hire someone without a CDL.
yeah, I mean, we would, but,
Getting
I mean, they would have to have a select time to get their CDL, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
So, you're saying 50-cent increase on the bottom level?
On the bottom level, if they do not have a CDL, and $3 if they do have a CDL.
Is that correct?
yes,
Okay.
like I said, a CDL is, the most important to me. We don't have a lot, there's very little to do without a CDL in the road department.
And the reason I think we need to keep that open to hire if they don't have a CDL is there's some good kids coming out of high school that maybe don't have that opportunity yet, but they're the right kind of kids that we want to employ. And if we can grab those right out of high school and then send them to school to get that CDL, we think that's valuable to get their, if it's the right kind of kid and the one that'll fit the culture and go work for us. So that's the reason we don't want to close the door to CDL at all, but also we know there's a cost of getting them a CDL if we send them to school and go through the training, so.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. Like I said, I found the money within my budget for the remaining 6 months of the year, budget year, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is that all the changes?
Yes. As far as wages, or I guess, yes.
The comp time?
Yes, we've got to get into that. So, comp time is that we've asked for the 80 hours just across the board. That was one of the big things that everybody had asked for. So,
So how do they accrue comp time?
anything over 80 hours.
I
So I guess-
understand that, but what's the necessity of, or what scenario do you accrue comp time?
So like the last 2 weeks, there's been quite a few of them that have worked 11, 12 hours in the day. So it's based on, correct me if I'm wrong, Heidi, but it's based on 40 hours in a week. Anything over the 40 hours is then time and a half comp time.
So what kind of activities would justify that?
So that'd be plowing snow, and then like our chip sealing, or, you know, at the county fair when they've worked, through the weekend, flooding, anytime we're called out, essentially. If we're called out at any point, you know, and typically you usually don't get called out till the weekend for some crazy reason or another, that's when you're called out.
Like when the commissioner says there's a road washed out and you need to run
Yeah.
signs out there, out west?
Yeah, so it's, the trouble is the road department's on call 24/7, 365. I mean, and the guys are aware of that going into it, and they've all been pretty good about being able to respond. And everybody has family activities, and we try to make sure that that there's somebody there to take care of things on a weekend,
Do you assign that out to somebody, or is it just whoever answers?
So I usually get the call, and I'm usually aware of most of the time of what everybody's doing, and I try to give that accordingly. So, it was just a week and a half ago on a Sunday night, the north wind was blowing, we had a tree blow across the road out in Manderfield, and sheriff's office called, so I had called Stefan, who was in Cedar City at the time, and so I called Cutler, and he went out and did it, took it off the road. So just instances like that, it's always something new.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with doing that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that the people that we are hired are willing to do that.
Yeah.
And they understand that that's their responsibility.
Sure. And as far as that goes, I've never really had that issue of not being able to get a hold of somebody because they don't want to come in, you know what I mean? They're trying to hide them. We've never had that issue. You know, that's the one thing that I preach, you know, you've got to understand that, and it's just like plowing snow. I mean, when it snows, you've got to be ready to go.
That's part of the job.
And maybe that's the reason some of the younger guys have left. Well, that's been thrown at me before. Well, I don't want to work weekends. Well, it's kind of what you sign up for too, you know.
Well, that's what's been thrown at the commissioners, that we're asking too much. And so that's why I'm weighing this, because here's my problem. In my mind, that's part of the responsibility. And I don't understand how you accrue overtime if you're not going above and beyond just your regular stuff, right? So.
I guess, I mean, that's not been said to me, but that's not saying it hasn't been
Well,
said.
you weren't in the meeting.
Right. So.
You missed that meeting.
But, that's part of the deal. I mean, but the majority of the guys, they want comp time. They want to be able to take off in October and go hunting. And which is a slow time of year. To me, that's a benefit if you can bust your butt through the year. And like I said, 11, 12 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, you know, that should be their incentive to be able to take off and go hunting for a week. You know, to me, that's a trade-off. For me, being the supervisor, that's a good trade-off. You take care of it now, and you can have a couple weeks in October. That's perfect. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll just say, this is tough, and I hope it doesn't cause a big wave and ripple, because I know that's what, hit us when we've done other departments. I think it's a tough, it's a tough thing for me. I think it should be done during the budget season and not mid-year, but, sometimes we do what we gotta do.
Yeah. I think we all echo that sentiment, and going forward, that may be something we kind of address going forward. We'll have to figure that out, right, for sure.
Had I known now, what I know now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it was as much of a surprise to me. I mean, that's why I reached out to Brandon and said, hey, we've got a problem. This definitely wasn't what I was expecting, obviously. So,
Okay. Any other thoughts? So now, I think I'll just entertain a motion, to just ratify this, because it's not changing budgets. We're not have to open the budget, it's not gonna be doing any budgetary change other than it is within his own budget as currently presented. He can make those changes if we're okay to ratify those changes.
So just a motion to ratify the changes within the budget.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
I got a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. Thanks, Cor.
Thanks,
Thank
Nick.
you. Keep the guys working, and we expect good things.
We don't keep enough guys here, we'll get a lot done.
Okay. Thank you. Tracy, come on up.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Great, how are you?
I'm
Aren't
good.
you glad to have one more election behind you?
Yes, there's a lot, I should tally them for you sometime.
Tell me what?
How many I've done?
Oh, how many?
Well, I've
Just
done.
this year alone.
Well, just this year alone, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more to go.
Yeah.
One more to go.
Since October of 2012. Okay, so we did the audit yesterday, and that went perfectly well. We had Commissioner Pearson and Yardley there. We audited 50 ballots. During the, election, they have us audit the signatures, as we go along. So prior to next steps, we audit, and how we have to manage that is anybody who's taken the training provided by the Lieutenant Governor's office is allowed to verify signatures, and then somebody different has to audit. So, with the changes of sending Trish out to Milford, I had sent out a survey to staff members in the building, and everybody signed up and helped me along the way. I do have to report, there was one signature that the auditor and the verifier disagreed upon, and so then you audit the whole batch. There were no other disagreements. That voter was asked to come in and ensure their ballot, everything was fine. Speaking of cures, there was also, 15 people that either hadn't signed or had a differing signature enough from their profile that we had to have them cure. And I wanna say, for the first time since 2012, I have 0 cures outstanding. That means everybody, rectified their issue before this morning, and that's the time frame they have to do that. We had 3 provisional ballots. We had about 56% voter turnout, which is lower than 4 years ago in a similar, type election. So I can't predict the upcoming election at all. Any questions?
56%, that's pretty low.
Pretty low. Since we've done vote by mail, I mean, 60% and above is great. 4 years ago was 75% in the June primary.
Yeah.
So, yes, I've had an increase in active registered voters, but your percentages should stay similar, and there's a lot of, I think, fatigue from the voters.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. So, you've seen the results online. We were done as of Wednesday, haven't had any more ballots come in the mail that are eligible to be counted, and we only had 2 that came past the deadline and couldn't be counted. So, we did great.
Okay, thank you
Good
very
job.
much. Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
job.
Thank you.
You're all involved.
Speaking of fatigue,
Speaking of fatigue, it takes me longer to recoup from these now.
now you gotta, rest a little bit and get ready for November.
Yes,
One more coming up.
All right,
a big one.
Yeah.
we'll entertain a motion that we accept the Board of Canvassers, whatever, results of the election, right?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Is it legal for me to make the motion, since how I was one of the canvassers?
Please do. You are the canvassers. Yeah, all 3 of you.
I did a really good job, I promise.
She did.
Me and Brandon.
Yep.
I'll make that motion that we approve the canvas.
I'll second that.
Roll call probably on this one.
Commissioner Pearson, aye.
Commissioner Yardley, aye.
Commissioner Honings, aye. Thank you very much.
But it was perfect. It's very interesting to be right in the middle of the process. And it's pretty hard to, argue with those results, because
Absolutely.
it's
You
spot
also
on.
had a staff member come
Yeah.
up and support and help and learn a lot, and she loved it. I did. I learned a lot.
It was kinda cool, huh?
Yeah.
It is good to be involved in the process, and as I've been involved the last couple of years, I feel very secure about our elections, and I have no problems.
Awesome.
I know you did make some calls on signatures, and one of those was to one of my family members.
It
so
was.
I can't believe you got him to do something. You should call him more often.
I had very awesome response from the voters, I'd say within an hour to under 24 hours on every single one. So that was excellent.
That's good.
I had to check my own.
Yeah. And I had somebody else verify her as well.
Well, what I love is the transparency, and I wish more people would actually come in the office and watch what's going on, and then
How many come in?
all the conspiracy
Just
theories.
the ones I asked.
Right.
Right.
So, all those talkers out there, they can come in and watch, right?
Right.
They should.
Yeah.
They should, well, they need to at least come understand the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Next item on the agenda is approving a board member for SSD 3. Service station number 3, is that you, Commissioner Arnold?
That's me, Mr. Chairman. So,
What you got?
So Special Service District Number 3, the Milford Hospital Board down there in Milford, we had one member resign, and so they advertised for 2 weeks in the paper. We had one applicant. We approved the applicant, the board approved the applicant to the recommendation of the commission. Brandon Wiseman is the only one that applied to do it. He has done it in the past.
Was this in a large number?
This wasn't that large.
Okay.
He did the one that was
Minersville or,
Minersville City once before, but it is the
Yeah.
at-large.
okay.
We actually lobbied a few more people to try to get a few applicants, but we had one term remaining, so.
People don't believe in volunteering.
And that is a good board to be involved in. I really enjoyed that board. That's understanding that side of the medical. The only time I ever go to a hospital, if the red stuff's running out of me, so this is different for me to be involved in that.
More pleasant
It's actually more pleasant than the other hospital visits. So I guess they would present the name of Brandon Wiseman to be approved for the board from the
That'd be great.
commission.
Is that a term, or is that just,
Yeah, their terms.
are they terms too?
I can't
There's probably some
remember.
bylaws.
I think it's a 4-year term.
And he will be finishing out the current term. They did say, we talked about terms, and they said they have a problem finding people to just be on that board, so.
Right.
A lot of times, if they get somebody that's willing, they'll just have them do it again for the next term, but I've talked to them about making sure we advertise for those terms.
Right.
Even though they're up, we can re-up the same people, we just need to make sure they go through the process.
Right.
Okay,
Well, do you want a motion or?
Yes, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Well,
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I will make a motion, we approve the board member, new board member Brandon Wiseman for Special Service District Number 3.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays,
Commissioner
unanimous.
Pearson, aye.
And then we need roll call.
Okay.
Commissioner Yardley, aye.
I think if we say aye, that's good enough.
That's what I've been putting in there.
Okay.
Thank you, and I will reach out to him and let him know, and make sure he knows when the next meeting is.
Is that a monthly meeting?
No,
Every
quarterly.
Quarterly, and then once in a while they'll have special meetings. We've had 2 special meetings this year already, so. I don't know, special, different than quarterly, I don't know what that word is.
I like it.
Emergency or something.
Yes. All right. I'm gonna, just real quick, old business, I'm gonna have Commissioner Pearson talk about the minutes we had just a minute ago with the hydrants and that right-of-way, road right-of-way, stuff you found out.
Okay, so I did some research, and on that county right-of-way is also a right-of-way with Rocky Ford irrigation. So not only does the county use that to access and spray, like do the weed control, because we've had a lot of that thistle and that kind of stuff, but that's also Rocky Ford, that's their only access point to the reservoir for the same reason.
Okay.
So,
So background, there was a gentleman, he and Heinrich come last commission looking to get that right-of-way abolished with some homeowners, right?
Right.
And due to this recent finding, we'll not be allowed to do that.
Yeah, there's no, there's no reason for an improvement to the road, or like it's not gonna ever be widened or whatever,
Right.
but they have to be able to have.
Access.
Some sort of access, and like Rocky Ford and that, or even the lead guys, usually just take a 4-wheeler. It's more of a, little 2-track access road, but they have to get in there to pick fences because there's a fence around that the whole property is used as, pasture when the lake isn't full. And so when the lake isn't full, then it's also a weed problem.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I was afraid that's what it was, but
So do you want to make a motion now to deny that request?
is that what we need to do?
I think so.
Yeah, we probably could. I mean, it's, it was considered on the agenda last time, but this is considered old business, which we could still, because we were gonna further research it, so I think you're fine doing that. I was, yeah, we got this right here.
Okay.
I think we're fine to do that, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we deny that request then.
Okay.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for doing that research, find that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we need to reach out to them and just let them know that we won't be able to deny it or approve that?
Because did they go through Kevin or did they go through Kyle?
Kyle.
Okay.
I can talk to Kyle.
Okay.
Okay. Heidi, you want to come on up? I know we're just a few minutes ahead of schedule, let's just stay there. Always better to be ahead than behind.
So I have a couple of clarifying questions. The road department raises, they go into effect on the July 19th. Is that when they go
Yes.
into effect on the next?
Whenever your next
pay
payroll is.
period is?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just finishing the one I'm in right now,
Yeah,
so I
don't-
just want to make sure you don't make me go back and redo everything.
No.
Okay. They'll also have to do something, it's illegal for me to change people's time. So if they are gonna, that's gonna go into comp time, they're gonna have to authorize me to move their overtime into comp time. Right now, there's only 2 of them that we were doing that with, so they were communicating with me through text. I would text them and say, so that I have proof that they wanted me to take their time and move it that way. And so we need to make a policy.
Let's do that.
And put it in our policy, and so we should probably put that on the next agenda.
Okay.
We should probably write policy that allows me to do that without it creating a legal issue for us, because I'm not supposed to, like,
Change it around.
and even Paylocity is like, locked up on me, and it's
So
like,
it needs to
you
be
shouldn't
the individual themselves, not the department head. It
The
has to be-
individual themselves need to say, we allow you to change our
Still,
time.
okay.
Because what I have to do is take time away from them and move it over to comp time.
Let's-
So I'm making notes in Paylocity that I took this from this time and took it to that time, and I'm texting the employee, but you can see what a lot of extra work it is to
Yeah.
process payroll, to do that with every single road department guy, to make sure they want me to move the time to comp time.
Do they have to do that every payroll?
Every pay period, yep. So, I just think it would be easier if we just put it into,
Let's do it.
to policy.
So if it was a
So
standing
that-
policy
yeah.
that said,
And I had a policy that one county did that I really, really liked, and I'll see if I can find that. If I can, I'll bring it back, but
Okay.
because it's illegal to do that, basically.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
I'm
for
doing
sure.
that during the pay period, they could come back and be like, she
Yeah.
took time from me, and then we could give, then the comp time and overtime for the same thing. Like, you can't mess with people's time, and the only way to do it is for me to take hours away from them. So they're
That was-
clocking in at 8 in the morning and clocking out at 8 at night, let's say the 12-hour shift. I'm taking that, and moving that clock out time from 8 PM to 6
6
PM, so I can move the 2
So that
hours
was the
over
whole
to comp time.
reason why we went away from it to begin with.
One of
because
the
it's a
reasons, right,
huge
you're
workload
messing with
for
a
you.
legal issue when you're
Yeah.
messing with people's time. So then I'm actually changing the time that they clock in and out so that I can pay them for their 40 hours and move the other hours, because naturally, it rolls to overtime. That's what the system's set up to do. It naturally rolls to overtime. There's no way for it just to go to comp time. It's overtime and it gets paid out. So then I go change their clock out time back, and then I move those hours to comp time. I manually add them into the system, and then I go in and put a note. Doing that with 1 or 2 of the guys, not that big of a deal. Your older guys have their 80 hours, not really going anywhere, but if they use it in October for 2 weeks,
Right.
then we're gonna have the same thing with them. We're gonna have to move it over. In order to do that, I am changing their time, which is not legal. So, I just want some clarification, because I don't want this to come back on me or you, and I don't want them to be able to come back and say, well, you took time away from me, you should pay me overtime. You know, I mean, it could get messy, I just would like it to
Let's
really
just
be all
have,
on the up
let's
and
just
up.
create a policy and make everybody sign it.
Right.
So it's standing policy that just says overtime will be moved to comp time until there's 80 hours in the comp time bank, after which that just goes back to overtime. That's basically all it needs to say.
No, because I'm changing their time. I am physically having to go in and change that time so it no longer shows that they made the overtime, and it moves that clock out time, and it shows like in Paylocity, it tracks. So if like I go in and change our clock out time, it shows on there, I there changed your clock out time. So I'm actually changing the time that they worked, that we're showing their work. I'm having to change their clock out time, because it pushes it to overtime. The only way for it not to push and pay them time and a half on it is if I change their clock out time back to the 40 hours and move that time to comp time. So I'm actually changing
So
their clock out time.
this isn't something that the super department head does.
No, I am changing
You
their
have
clock
to
out
do
time.
that.
Mhm. Yeah, and it says in Paylocity, Heidi did this. It shows me when they change it, like it tells that you changed it. So it shows that I'm changing it, and so far, I have a lot of text messages, but I'm like, what if my phone falls in the lake? And I don't have text messages anymore.
So to
You
cover
know?
yourself, we need to
I
change
think it
policy.
needs to be in a policy, and
Okay.
I think that, or they need to, and I said this early to somebody, I don't know who I said it to, they need to sign something, every one of them are released, that just says that they want me to do that they're authorizing me to do that, and they want me to do that, and they know that that's happening, and this is the
Yeah, we
only
talked
way.
about that earlier.
This is the only way that we can move their time to comp time. So they have to acknowledge it, and they have to, and I asked the guys to all text me. I said, if you have overtime and you want it to go to comp time, you email me or text me and you tell me that. None of them have done it. So I'm the one that's saying, do you want this to go to comp time, or do you want me to pay you out overtime? Oh, no, yeah, put it into my comp time.
She shouldn't be the one having to do it.
I agree, they should
So-
initiate
If
the
they're not
conversation.
capable of doing that, then just automatically go to overtime, that's what I would say.
Me too. Yeah.
And if it's in
Well, we're gonna put in policy,
Yeah.
so then you're not.
Put it in policy.
I'm just saying, I just think there's a legal issue to this that we need to make sure we clear up. I'm fine to do it, but I just don't want it to come back on me or
But
you.
none of this will
that I-
start, so we've got time to do it.
Right, so I think that's
So
another thing.
I would say that if they don't do it themselves, they don't get it until they do it.
Well, and I think they
don't
need to,
follow
I think
through.
we should have something on file that says that they authorize this to happen, so that
Agreed.
it's not like a gray area,
Right,
and not
right.
like they could come back and say, they could go get the wage and hour division, and we'd be in really big trouble.
Do it.
If we didn't have, we've gotta have a paper trail, we've gotta have them wanting it done that way, they've gotta acknowledge what's happening, they have to, yeah, I knew she was changing my time to move that to comp time, I agree that that's what I wanted to have done, right, and ask
But
payroll.
does that have to be done every pay period, or can it just be one
I-
time signed?
This is what I
and
think
in
should happen, is I
policy
think
and
they
done?
should sign the acknowledgement that says they go to 80 hours, and I would love it if they would follow up with it, or somehow, because and maybe we get Vaughn to make sure that we're covering our bases. Yeah, sometimes know.
You look over there.
So anyways, I'll try to work on that before the next commission meeting, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
So there should have been a resolution here today for you all to sign.
You have it.
You have that?
Make sure it's the right one.
Is it one that was put in for today?
It has no number, but I found the number in the phone drive.
No, it's not.
Well, the same right one.
No.
Then,
It's got all the wrong dates in it.
it might say no, I didn't do it.
Just a second. Let me just read one a little bit further. Yes, 6 down here. They didn't fix the number, so. If I fix this, where was this at, Ginger?
In the old drive.
Where at?
It was in,
It wasn't put in with the number or anything. You grabbed it and pulled it over and gave
And
it
like
that
that,
room.
the Word document that when you're creating it, you know what I mean?
Do you mind if I go fix this?
No.
And then can
It
put
was
the
an
other
original
stuff
Word
and then
copy,
We
come
can,
back?
you can come back at 10:45 or
I'll
something.
just go fix this, and then we'll come back to this. Part of it, which you can do right now, is just acknowledge we don't have to do anything for this, but all tier 2 employees that are in the hybrid system are now going to start having .70 withheld from their check. So that starts, it's all effective July, so that starts this week, that's this pay period, yeah. I'm still working out a few of the details of Paylocity, but it has to happen, so that's this pay period.
Okay.
So .70 will start this time. Employees have multiple avenues to find out that this is happening. This is a URS thing, it's not a Beaver County thing, right? We have no control over it. We've tried everything we could think of to try to find a way for us to offset this cost. It is legally not possible. I spoke with multiple attorneys. I have done tons of research to try to see if there was any way possible that you all could offset this. There's really not. The only thing that I have come up with and that I would like to propose that we put into effect in January is that we start doing a matching contribution for all of our employees, and that we use the money that we're saving from the reduced amortization rates to fund that. So the money that we're saving, so the tier 1, we've talked about this before, just a quick refresher. Tier 1 amortization rates are reducing, right? People are phasing out, they're retiring out. That tier 1 amortization rate that we're paying is going down.
Right.
We're gonna take that money and put it into funding for employees, and we'll use that money to offset that. And so we would do a matching contribution for our people. We'd use that URS money to do that, so we wouldn't have to come up with additional funds for that. So, I'd like to bring that back to you and have that be something that goes into effect. We could do it during budgeting time, or if we open the budget, I'll bring it in, whatever we do. But I think we work on that and try to get something where we're doing a matching contribution with those funds to help our employees out. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the plan with that. I'll bring it back, but if you'll give me a minute, I'll go get this fixed, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
Or just I'll just sit back here and you call me when you're ready.
Okay, yeah, that works, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Fergal, come on up, we're just a few minutes early, but we'll keep on going still. How are you guys today?
Good.
Good
Very
morning.
good morning.
You guys are just moving and shaking out there. Shaking was not a,
They don't want to be shaking too much.
pun not intended.
All right. Just for the record again, and just introductions if you would.
Absolutely. So I'm Paul Conrad. I'm the site permitting manager. I think it's my first time presenting before you guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
I work for Brandon Law over there, who I'm sure you know.
Yep.
And then Pat Combs, development manager with Verba. Brandon Law, senior director, land environmental permitting, Verba.
Perfect, thank you.
It's a mouthful.
Yes. All right, go right ahead, whoever got the mic, go ahead.
Stephanie, I wonder if I could borrow that clicker from you. Thanks very much.
Is Kyle coming up for this?
Kyle's out on vacation. Everybody on vacation, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
If you go to, display settings,
I might have taken this away from you too quickly, Stephanie.
and then swap.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. As you mentioned, Tammy, we have been moving out there, and we're really, really excited to be sitting in front of you today. So I'll take the next 10 minutes and kind of give the high overview of what it is we would like to do. Hopefully we have some time for questions, and then we also have a proposed minor amendment to one of the conditions of the CUP, and I want to make sure we have time to talk about that as well. So, very quickly, we're here because since our previous CUP was approved March of 2023, we've been doing a lot in the last 16 months. We've built 5 well pads out there. One of them you can see here is our Frisco pad, one of the first pads we built. We've built the roads to access those pads. We've drilled or are drilling 15 geothermal wells, and we've stimulated 3 of those wells. And the long story short of all of that is we found what we hope to find in Beaver County, which is a geothermal resource that we think can support hundreds of megawatts of electricity generation. And now we want to get to work actually generating that electricity. The rock that we found is around 400 degrees. It's around 8,000 feet, and it just keeps getting hotter from there. This is almost not quite, almost an inexhaustible resource that we think has a huge amount of growth potential. So now that we've drilled the exploration wells, done the simulations, done the testing, we want to start building to generate power. High level, we'll go into all the different aspects of the project in later slides, but we want to expand those 5 pads to a total of 23. We want to construct up to 20 power plants being fed from those 23 well pads.
20 individual power plants?
Potentially. We're looking at other options past our first phase 1 here that would potentially consolidate those into single larger generating units rather than smaller individual units. There's a handful of options, but for the time being, we're considering a 20 power generation facility layout. They would be connected from the well pads to the power plants via pipelines, and those pipelines would carry cooled geothermal fluid down underground to be heated through the geothermal reservoir by the hot rock. That heated fluid would be carried back up in the producing wells, carried via pipelines to the power plants, and used to turn turbines and generate electricity. The plan also calls for building a central switchyard. So each of these power plants would carry power via 67 kilovolt sub-transmission lines to a central switchyard facility. That switchyard would step up the power to high voltage and send it out on a high voltage transmission line to the Milford substation to the north that currently exists. So essentially, we would build this in a couple of phases. The first phase, we have up to a 60% design that we'll go into, and then subsequent phases would continue to send power to this central switchyard and build it up in stages as we go.
Can I just take a second to point out that our original CUP that we came to you with had 29 well pads, and that was to generate what we thought would be 100 to 150 megawatts. We're actually proposing fewer well pads to generate 400 to 600 megawatts or more. So we've dramatically reduced our footprint
You found
per
some-
megawatt.
Yeah, you found some good stuff underground that's gonna produce better than you intended, right?
Sorry about that. Well, we'll be able to, I have a slide here to kind of show you how we've been able to consolidate, but long story short, we've been able to use directional filling techniques to be able to drill multiple wells from single pads. So we've actually dramatically stepped up the number of wells we proposed while stepping down the number of well pads we're
On the
drilling.
footprint, that's great.
Yeah. How we'll be accessing the project is largely similar to the exploration plan. It will be via North Antelope Point Road off of Highway 257. North Antelope Point is a 2-lane paved road. We also have some accesses off of Salt Cove Road or Forge Road, which is a gravel road. Neither of these roads we anticipate requiring improvement in order to access this project for construction and then later on for maintenance. There will be potentially new access points as this field is built out. And all of those access points, we would continue to work with Corey and with Kyle for right-of-way encroachments and ensuring that our road maintenance agreement is updated to accommodate increased traffic. In terms of that increased traffic, the traffic required for continuing to drill wells and build well pads is going to be largely identical to what you've already seen over the last 16 months as we continue to develop the well field. What will be new is constructing these power plants, and that will come in waves of a few months at a time as these plants are built up in phases. It will require some numbers of, pretty significant numbers of temporary workers, and we'll get into that as well. But we believe that the roads as they currently exist can accommodate all of this traffic, and we'll continue to work with Corey if that is the case. This is the slide that kind of talks about how we've been able to consolidate these well pads and the number of wells per pad. So that little diagram up in the upper right shows what the current setup is for the first phase of well pads. Each of those gray dots represents a wellhead. So we're actually drilling now, the original plan showed a single well for a single pad. We're drilling 8 wells for a single pad. And we don't intend to stop there. Our designers continue to work on, could we potentially drill even more wells from single pads in order to reduce this footprint still further. The diagram over on the far right with the green squares, those are the well pads that we've already constructed, and that is the well field shown from the air, the horizontal wells that we have drilled and are drilling in order to build out our first phase of power production. And then on the lower right in yellow, this is the secret for how we've been able to consolidate so many wells on single pads, is that we have expanded from a single bench of wells, a single layer of wells, to 2 layers of wells. The top layer is roughly at around 8,000 feet down, and then we will be drilling and are drilling a second bench of wells about 700 feet under that. And we're already looking at research and development to potentially increase the depth of still more benches and continue to chase hotter rock. Generally, hotter rock is better, has more energy, and you can extract more energy from it. Everything you see over on the left, that description is almost completely unchanged from the description that was already seen and approved under the exploration plan. It's basically the same setup. We'll continue to build well pads, roughly 450 by 650, although those shapes may change as we continue to try and consolidate numbers of wells per pad. And then once the wells are drilled, we will stimulate those wells, creating these fractures between horizontal wells, of which we've so far done 3. And then we will do well testing, again, exactly the same as the exploration plan described. Our first well test, we expect to kick off here in about 2 weeks. It's going to be a roughly 30 to 40 day test, starting in mid-July, going through mid-August. And that will be testing how the rock cycles the water underground and how much energy we can extract from it.
I was gonna say, let us know when you do that, but if it's gonna last that long,
Yeah.
an hour visit isn't gonna really.
You'll have plenty of time to visit. And this, so everything you see on this slide, this is the big new aspect. We want to start building some power plants. There on the lower right is the type of power plant that we would like to build. This is an example of one that's already been constructed out in northwest Nevada. These are called organic Rankine cycle power plants.
Why is it organic?
That's an excellent question. I don't know if I know the
Can
answer.
they just catch it?
Everyone's using organic just freely now. This is organic, it's an organic plant.
It's because our working fluid is an
Organic?
organic fluid.
Okay.
Isopentene
Sure.
or other.
Yeah, okay, I'm just, okay.
Okay, that's a good definition.
I like the explanation, I'm just curious.
We're not smart Alex at all, you know.
We're not making power plants, unfortunately. Power plants, not with plants.
Plants, yeah. With the, okay, all right, go ahead, sorry.
What makes these power plants unique is historic geothermal power plants, the type that were built in the 70s and 80s, would take this heated water from underground, turn it to flash steam, run it through a turbine, and release that steam into the air, essentially losing that water. These plants allow us to essentially contain all of the water when it reaches the surface. So the heated geothermal fluid reaches the power plant, that heat is transferred to this working fluid, and then that cool geothermal fluid is sent right back underground, an entirely closed loop system on the surface.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no more gigantic steam plumes. You'll see that during the test, but you won't see that when we're actually generating power. Over on the right is the first phase that we want to construct. Those purple squares are representative of those green squares we were looking at before. The first phase would involve building 3 power plants, one for each of the producing pads, and then sending that power to the central switchyard, which you can see is that rectangle, and sending it out on the high voltage transmission line, first going east to west and then turning north up to the Milford substation. And if this project is approved, we want to jump right on this. We have plans to break ground potentially as early as October, get our first power plant up and running, I believe in 2025, and the remaining 2 in 2026. We have our suppliers ready to go. We have our designs at 60% and continuing to push that. We are ready. We are excited to get this thing going. In order to actually construct those power plants, it's going to require a lot of temporary personnel. Right now, we estimate between 150 up to 225 or potentially more for a period of a few months while these plants are actually being assembled. that is still kind of being evaluated, exactly what the total head count will be. Once this design gets past 60%, I think they'll be able to refine that further. In order to accommodate so many temporary workers, currently the plan is to construct temporary living quarters similar to what we've already constructed out on our Delano pad. And that would be permitted as one of our conditions of this CUP through Kyle's group. And then I have, we'll see if it works here. Yeah, I got this to work. Essentially, this is, if you like, you can watch this on your own time, but this is a kind of a 6-minute overview by our power plant manufacturer, Turboden, that kind of goes through the details of how these power plants work, gives some overviews of some drone footage of what these plants actually look like, and kind of gives the overall overview of how this is going to work.
What's your expected lifespan of a power plant?
So we hope to, essentially, we hope these power plants will last decades. Each of these individual wells will have a specific lifetime as the heat is extracted from the rock that the water flows through. The efficiency of individual wells will decrease over a period of about 10 to 15 years. We hope to extend the life of individual power plants through what we call infill wells, essentially continuing to drill new wells, hopefully deeper into hotter rock, and sending that same fluid to the same power plants. So exactly what the lifetime will be depends on the amount of infill wells that we will be able to access and just how hot we can go before things like drill seal start to melt and you reach the limit of what drilling capability can do. But that's something we're going to continue to push the envelope on. We have strong incentive to keep these plants going as long as we can.
I'm sure I won't be around, but, you know, I got grandkids coming up, so I'm looking at, you know, long-term, like decommissioning or whatever, you know, what that looks like. Is that part of the CUP?
It is, yeah. So we do have, and this is also a requirement as part of our environmental assessment with the BLM, to talk about how these would be decommissioned. It doesn't go into a lot of detail because we hope it will be 30, 40, 50 years before we have to do so, but they would be disassembled, the fences would be removed, and the ground would be remediated through seeding.
And if the demand's still there, I would assume you just kind of rebuild those plants or replace those plants and not really decommission, you're just upgrading, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah, we tend to assess useful life at around 30 years, but we see for a lot of the plants throughout the country, they tend to extend well beyond that, so that's definitely what we look to do here.
Well, I know Blundell and Silverdale,
Been there for
they've been here a long, long
Long
time.
time,
longer.
close to 60 years or something.
Yeah, for as long as I remember, you know, and they just keep upgrading and remodeling or whatever they need to do, so that's where I'm at. I mean, I think that this is one of those things that you guys have proven that really tickled with what you've done, you know, first conversations we had with Virgo people 3 or 4 years ago. I'm just like, this is where it's at. This is, you know, to me, 24/7 baseload power is what we need to be focusing on, and I think this is incredible. I'm really tickled that you guys have made a success out of this, so happy to be along for the ride. I'm your biggest cheerleader.
We are as well, we're self-promoters, we all love this project and being able to work on it with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys have been great partners and been very, keeping us involved too, so I appreciate that as well. So everybody's involved, is, you know, Sarah, everybody's involved, you know, have been great, so thank you. Yeah.
Is there a CUP somewhere? You got it? Okay, I haven't seen one.
I wish I could go right one over there, see if I can ask around, but that's the right one.
I mean, I haven't seen it.
Hopefully it is. We didn't get a packet.
You didn't? Oh. I wasn't, thinking of other stuff.
I don't know, maybe.
Sorry, I escaped you. Were you? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Sorry.
I think that's the gist
Was that the end of it, or do
We
you
can-
need to finish out?
We can, open it for questions this time.
Planning and zoning has seen this already, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Commissioner, I was at that meeting. If you have any questions, I
I
can
mean, I
speak on behalf.
assume they approved it?
Yeah,
Or-
yes. They're, I'll state my name for the record, Jen Wakeland, Strategic Development Director, Beaver County. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this, had several questions, where there is some lease of land from Smithfield Farms with the ag protection, they had questions about that. The answer to that, obviously, is that if the landowner is in conversation, is in part of the lease, then this doesn't, affect any of that kind of language, so. But that was the only real concern that came up in the course of that conversation.
Okay.
Because everything so far that you guys have done in our planning is part of the property, right?
It's actually a mix of properties, so we have, done some work on BLM property. 3 of our pads, 4 of our pads actually are located on BLM. 1 of the pads is located on Smithfield property. And then the first phase of power plants, 1 of them will be on Smithfield property, and 2 will be located on Chris McChris's property.
So all private property for the power plants?
Correct.
Okay.
And all of those private leases do require full decommissioning and removal at the end of the project.
Right.
Okay.
What's the total footprint?
About 631 total disturbed acres, but we think that's a maximum during construction. We expect that to decrease to around 400 to 450 acres during operations.
What's the footprint of just the power plant?
The individual power plants will be around, the pads themselves around 600 feet by 400 feet. The actual equipment on them will be smaller, around 300 by 50. The largest structure being those large fan boxes that you saw in the picture.
Okay.
So that would be, what, roughly a couple acres? I
Yeah.
don't know, I mean, I'm just trying to picture it.
Sure. Individual power plant pads will be on the order of 6 acres of impact.
6 acres.
Each, but that's for the full pad, the actual
The full
equipment.
footprint.
That's right.
Well, because in one of your earlier slides, it said 6,000 or something like that acres, but that's, you're talking about all the underground.
That's the subsurface.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are accessing thousands of underground acres
Right,
from
right.
600 total acres of impact.
Okay.
And that 600 acres of impact is spread across about, what, 15 or 20,000 acres of lease.
The total extent of the project measures roughly 4 to 5 miles on the south by about 3 miles east.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map, and, you know, that's a lot of property out there.
And how much power will you be able to produce with each plant?
The first phase, they will be net megawatts of 36. We're going to lose some in transmission, so we expect end user will be about 30 megawatts per. So this first phase will be 90 megawatts. And then for the second phase, we hope to step that up to 400 megawatts, either with the same power plants.
In layman's terms, when you say 90 megawatts, what does that translate? I mean, how many homes or whatever would that power?
That's a great question. And you guys have that in your
I mean,
I think
how does that,
Put it up in the planning and stuff.
how does that
Yeah,
come
I
out?
was gonna say-
Layman's terms for people who are, you know,
Isn't it 1,000?
I mean, all I know is I hit the light switch and I have
It's
power.
about-
What
it's
megawatt
about-
that is.
2,000 per megawatt, but
2,000
that's,
homes?
but it varies on the different types, and so this, because this is a different type as compared to solar or wind, it's a little bit different, so we'll be able to really weed that number out once we get online and do some things.
But
But it can be as high,
But 1 megawatt,
as high as,
up to that 2,000 homes.
right.
This
And
is
remember,
going to be
There's a lot
way
of power.
better than solar or wind.
And remember,
Okay.
there's,
This will be way better than solar or wind.
Yes,
because it's consistent.
it's consistent.
correct.
It's consistent, it's
24/7.
24/7, it pays the landowner more.
Will any of that power be able to be captured in our county or state?
Not for this first phase.
Right.
It's subject to power
Or
purchase.
you already got it?
That's right.
Which is fine, but I'm just maybe down the road thinking about this a little bit, will you?
Well, they're trying to, but the problem is,
Money?
this is, no,
Well, that's.
legislation and the free market.
Which I understand.
So,
Okay.
you know, but that's mandated, is they have to put it out there, and so that's one thing that we want to talk to
That's
Evan
why
and
we live in a
Carl
free market
about,
world,
this,
this is good.
because if we get the impact, then locals should get an easier way of getting into it.
Well, and I would also add, there are advantages to not being the first customer in line, because
Yeah, we're gonna try
we're
that.
gonna pay the premium price for
Right.
these first power plants. we are going to get better at building these plants as we do them. That's going to lower the price, so next customer in line will get better too.
And as Paul was mentioning, we have a lot of runway to grow with respect to the resource. I know we mentioned the challenges with utility connections and actually keeping stuff in the community, the county and the state, but I think there's already a lot of interest in like future phases 3+, and, potential opportunities for behind the meter applications and whatnot that could, serve that purpose of keeping
Right.
stuff local in the state and just providing that runway for future developments.
So on the, because we've dealt with wind and solar the last 2 years I have, but, so have you got a purchase agreement on the back end? You've already got power sold or locked in?
That's right.
Okay, so, good deal. You'll hit the IPP, or whatever the hell they call it now, IPA?
Oh, that'd be it,
Okay, good deal.
And I just want to point out that we did retain the larger box around the project area because we do think that this will expand out, like Pat said, beyond phases 1 and 2. We think that there's a gigawatt or 2 gigawatts in this valley, and really we don't know the limit of that resource until we expand our exploration out to the outer perimeters of what we have so far.
I did want to add very quickly, we did propose an amendment to condition 10. Condition 10 talks about the requirements for fencing. We had a couple of reasons for that. One, it seemed to imply that we would build a fence around the entire perimeter of this project, which we can't do because it's several square miles, but also we wouldn't want to because of grazing impacts.
We wouldn't want you to either.
Yeah.
Right, so we
gotta
adjusted-
keep them cowboys happy.
Somebody has an interest in that grazing land.
So the amendment
Or some cows too.
The amendment proposes that we would build fences as required in our building permits, essentially.
Around each wellhead.
They have it in the packet when I pull it back out, I can show you.
Okay.
So then, are you, I feel like I'm going.
Well, let's do point out that some of our core values, this is something that we talked to the planning and zoning about, but we hope that the commission feels the same, that we are building things that last, that we do what we say that we're going to do. We hope that you guys recognize that.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Well, and I think the focus as far as fencing goes is more on a safety issue for cattle and, livestock grazing and all of those kind of things. And keeping pesky, snoopy people out of your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, but I would agree on perimeter, there's no need for a perimeter fence other than just site specific.
Mhm. Our current plan calls for fencing with 8-foot chain link fences around our switch yard, around our power plants for exactly that reason. But we just didn't want to imply that we were going to build a 4-mile by 3-mile exclusion area out there. Not our intention.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think anybody would be happy with that or expect it either.
I think we had just a few problems with the cows were trying to get into the water a little bit, but there's enough activity out there that most of the time they just stay away. Hopefully they don't bother you too much.
Okay, if they invoke our questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve conditional use permit 2024-12.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve that, on the recommendation of the planning and zoning, and the building department, and our good neighbors, so.
Okay, for a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Commissioner Pearson, aye.
Commissioner Yardley, aye.
Commissioner Hollington, aye. Perfect.
Can we take a picture really quick?
Sure.
Kind of a big deal, building power plants in Beaver County.
Yes.
You guys wanna just turn around and I'll take a picture of it?
Or they can come stand up here with us.
Yeah, that's fun too. Let's stand in front of the logo real quick.
Even better.
Even better.
Do we get permission to break the boundaries?
Just don't step on the
Yeah.
stool. No.
Yeah.
You guys come to the
Turn
center.
around and log for people.
We're gonna walk around the other, yeah, you're on your side over there. Yeah, thanks, bro.
They don't like me.
I don't want these glasses on either, don't like it.
And then if you will, let's build a power plant. 1, 2, 3, let's build a power plant. 1, 2, 3.
Yay!
All
Yeah. All right, Sheriff, Captain Beaver and Scott, come on up, guys. How are you three this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning. July 2nd already?
It is. Life's passing quickly. Summer's going by fast.
The year's half over.
Crazy, absolutely
About time to
crazy.
talk budget again.
Yeah.
Here's a couple months or two.
So we're here to visit a little bit about our contracting as far as programming goes, which everybody knows is a big deal in our facility. I'm gonna let Beaver and Scott know a lot more about this than me. I wear the title right now, but I'm still learning a lot of the ins and outs of the back. As you know, there was some increases in funding. The state runs on the July calendar, fiscal year or whatever, not the calendar year like we do. So some of that funding has went into effect. Liddell's been kind enough to get some numbers together for me, so we can kind of show you what we're looking at right now. One thing that we ran into, and it's not just because of program, or it wasn't just affecting programming, it was affecting overall numbers. It was the same thing that everybody is dealing with right now, and that's the Board of Pardons releasing people into society that probably really shouldn't be released yet. There are a number of programs throughout the state, depending on what you, and feel free to jump in at any time. Depending on what are sentenced for, the crimes that you committed, what you need, what kind of programming that the state needs, and what kind of programs that they'll give you. The Board of Pardons will say, they call them CAPS, that are treatment routes that you need to get for either substance abuse, or if you're a sex offender, or there's a variety of things, but one of those CAPS is domestic violence treatment. And as I was trying to think of what we could do to even, our program is extremely successful, very well known in the state, but I was thinking, what else could I do to try and make it a little more lucrative for us and for them to say, oh, let's try to get them into Beaver County. There is a domestic violence cap out there, but there is no facilities in the state of Utah that treat domestic violence, which is quite strange actually if you think about it. These guys do some domestic violence in their programming in the RSP, and it's alphabet soup to me, you know. But we have the BRTs, the MRT, but the main thing is, what's the CI?
Oh, CBISA.
CBISA, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, we know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
We're gonna use the term programming. That's what I'll say from here on out, just programming. But in the programming, they do have some modules in there that have to do with self-discipline or anger management type stuff, treating others, how to treat others, and domestic violence basically, you know. Literally, they do talk about it. However, they are not certified domestic violence counselors. So I was talking with one of the IPP directors, and he just made a comment. He didn't make any guarantees or anything like that. He just said, you know, he said, if you wanted to keep your beds full, and he was talking about our entire facility, because we have people in the program, but we also have people waiting to go into the program.
Right.
He said, so if you'd like to see your jail full or more often, get a domestic violence program. So I immediately, the Will's Gut student, I called Scott and I said, hey, can you guys get domestic violence certified? He's like, yeah, but it's not something we would normally do. But I'm saying, no, but would you do it for our facility? Because obviously these guys have their other jobs and stuff. So I reached out to them and asked them to take on another certification for us. This was me asking them. Scott done some research, called me and said, yep, we can do it. He says, however, you need to understand that there already is some new legislation in there, or new policies for DOC, that in their therapy sessions, the inmates used to do the group therapies, but then they would do the one-on-one therapies monthly. So if the individuals would go do the group sessions or whatever, and then each one of the therapists that we have out there has a group of inmates assigned to them that they see one-on-one monthly. State just come down, I was in the meeting, Bee was in the meeting, Cam Beaver was in the meeting, we all went in there, talked to them. They have a new requirement that they are doing one-on-one counseling bi-monthly, so that increased that, so they're gonna have to do it twice. But in doing so, we had to renegotiate, or we're gonna have to redo the contract with these guys, with Project Success in our county, because it's gonna put more hours on their therapists to come in there. We had brought Ty on board, he has been on board, a great young man, I've heard nothing but great things about him so far. But now with the domestic violence therapist, or the domestic violence in there, they're going to get this certification for me if we approve this. Really isn't going to cost us any more as far as the hourly and the contract, because they're already gonna be doing it because of the biannual. But there is a certification and an amount of money that's gonna have to be paid to the therapist to take the certification. Scott just told me that it was probably gonna look at, so the class to get certification is about $300 per therapist. They're talking about having 3 do it, maybe 4, but then you pay their salaries or their hours for doing it. We figured around $4,000. And so in total, what the increase for the total year, with, keep in mind, and I've talked to Captain Honey, I need to throw this out there. Director Honey used to be over IPP. He is now over a different area in the jail, but I still converse with him a lot. He's a big wig in there. So when I called him prior to just moving on this, he says, hey, wait just a second, let me talk with the other people that are in programming. He says, because I'm not sure that this IPP guy has told you 100% accurate. He suggests they do have caps, but I can't just tell you just because you got domestic violence certified guys in your facility, certified therapists in your facility, that is necessarily going to bring you people. I didn't even want to tell him, because the reason I don't want to tell him is I don't want the state to get the idea, hey, that's great, we can have a program in here, we'll do it ourselves, and they can sweep it out from under us. Honey's a good dude. I don't know what will happen after he talks to the therapy group, but he was going to reach out to them today and say, listen, this is what Beaver County's planning on doing, and I plan on doing it rather they say anything or not, because what I do feel is once the Board of Pardons sees that these inmates have a certificate from these guys saying that they completed their domestic violence cap, then the Board of Pardons is going to be saying, well, why haven't we been seeing that more? Because what they're doing now is they go through all their other stuff, then they go to the Board of Pardons, and the Board of Pardons has to do a special waiver, basically, that says, well, yes, you were supposed to go to domestic violence training. We don't offer that anywhere in the state, so we're just going to have to say, okay, yes, you were supposed to do it, you didn't, but we didn't offer it, so okay, you're done anyway. So it's a big deal. Domestic violence is a huge thing.
Well, they just passed David's law, what was it, last year?
What? Yeah, and I can't remember the exact.
But it's all based on domestic violence.
And that's like with the LAP assessments that we have to do on patrol. Domestic violence is a huge thing. Domestic violence it takes a lot of people's lives for you, and it's an epidemic. It is, it really is. And you know, when we talk about, they've got sex offender treatment, they've got drug and alcohol treatments and stuff. Anger management and domestic violence counseling is a big deal. And so if we open it up and we're the first ones that start it, could be a real big deal for us eventually. And I'm thinking more long-term, and it might show dividends well after I'm gone from my position and stuff, but if we start building on it right now, I don't think it's going to do anything but help us. Plus, we're already going to be incurring a cost increase anyway. So adding that additional $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 to get these guys certified in that counseling I know that's a lot of money, $5,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not.
It's an investment though.
It is
It's not-
100% an investment.
And I think, when you first told me about it, to me, that's gonna give a reason for us to do more business.
Yep,
It's just another niche, because you gotta have your niche, just like your program,
yep.
to keep those, keep those right kind of inmates here.
Well, and when they come to us and they said, hey, so the state, they get maybe a little bit jealous, I would say, sometimes, like with these guys having a really great success rate, doing a really good program, and so they end up thinking, they come down and they put more on us, and I may be speaking with a loud turn, I don't think I am, but it's like, hey, okay, well, you guys are doing good, but you're only doing monthly one-on-ones, you need to do 2 one-on. So it's just like every other mandate, be it fed, state, sometimes local even, things may be going great, may be doing great, but then they put another one on you.
Well, do you mind if I hop in? Because part of what's happened also is that they went and designated each program in the state, so every single county jail, they designated what their level of care was, and then they're reimbursed according to that level of care.
Right.
So they designated us as an RSAT, Residential Substance Treatment Program, which is, there's only 3 left. So there's Conquest in Salt Lake, Hope in Gunnison, and then now Beaver. All the rest were dropped down to what's called IOP, intensive outpatient. So that's a lower level, reimbursed a lower rate. So that's kind of what happened. The reason, in order to maintain the RSAT, they require what's called a dosage, and the dosage they've said is, according to ASAM ratings, is X amount per week, per inmate. So that's why the increases have come. And really, the increases are about that, not necessarily domestic violence. Domestic violence is about a $4,000 to $5,000 investment, which is minimal. The other one is actually to be able to be the RSAT and maintain the top level of funding for programming.
And when he says outpatient, that doesn't mean that they're letting guys go in and out like you would think.
No.
So inpatient, when they say the inpatient treatment, the residential is just a more intensive.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you think about it, when we talked, it's the state, it's Gunnison and us.
That's it.
So, I mean, we're not the 3rd prison, I refuse to say that, we're not a prison, we're a jail, but in the grand scheme of things, we're the closest thing to the next prison. And that's not because of anything other than we have a really good training facility. I brought him here because I want you guys to understand, we're trying to do this and make this better, but we're also trying to do this with a caliber of inmates that we've never seen before, because of the Board of Pardons. The Board of Pardons, we're not dealing with the guys that have had 3 or 4 DUIs but never committed a violent crime, or the guys that got caught with a bunch of drugs for sale or something. We're dealing now with guys that have multiple assaults, homicide, different stuff like that, but all of them have dope attached to it, alcohol attached to it, domestic violence attached to it, right? And so this just gives us another tool to try to work with them, try to keep our beds full, and like I say, even if all of a sudden it's a big failure, and we say that, okay, we're not gonna do the domestic violence treatment, that's not gonna change the fact that we still have to do bi-monthly, one-on-one sessions with the guys that are in the program. So what I'm asking you to do is it's gonna increase our contract totally, that's the annual increase, right? So, first off, he's got some numbers here, just kind of share those with them if you would.
Yeah, these are just, new rates for billing on a monthly basis or a daily basis, I guess. So our general house inmate, is increasing $10.50 a day. Court treatment, which is the BRT, SATP, $2.10 per day. And then our MRT or aftercare, once they've graduated the program, they can fit into that spot as well, and that's increased to another 75 cents a day as well.
So overall, if you look at what we increased by monthly, what we took in, so in June, we were still in their last, what their inmates costed, right?
Right.
The calculated cost. So per month, by increasing the wages, the way that the counties and Tammy and you guys, everybody was able to go up there and fight, Sheriff Association, not a big part of that. The daily incarceration rate, looking at 130
between $110,000 and $120,000 increase a month.
A month. So,
If we can keep our beds full.
if,
Numbers stay up.
yeah, so that's if the numbers, and I know in the
What is
past
that
we
number
went
based off
three.
of? Sorry.
Go ahead.
What number is that based off, like 345 or something?
Ginger has based our bed count off of 345. I'm not ever,
340.
345.
345.
I used to
And-
be 350, but it was never like,
Never got
it
there.
was too much that it was.
And here's the thing, is we could get up in the 350s, we could get down to the 320s. And to base it off an actual count, I know you have to try to do it off of something, but with the Board of Pardons doing what the Board of Pardons, I see the pendulum starting to swing back already. I'm starting to see them say, you know, this ain't working, this catch and release thing's not working. So I think that the need for beds is gonna become nothing but more abundant. You know, there's other counties that are trying to build jails and stuff, but they're 2, 3 years, 4 years out, if they even get the Juab County Jail that's come to the Sheriff's Association and asked them to write a letter of support, for them to even go and start the county has to write a resolution.
Yeah, there's a whole process.
Has to go through the legislation, has to go through DOC. There's so much to it, but I mean, they're 3, 4 years out, and the state has been very, very upfront and said, we have jails that we've been working with for 25, 30 years almost
You
here.
have a base, so there's so many county jails that have that base contract already,
Yep.
and they can't even quite meet the contract that they have with the existing jails, and so
Yeah.
it makes no sense for these new guys coming in thinking that they can crowd you out. So I have to commend you for this thought process, because you do have to have that niche. You know, you just gotta keep thinking on how to keep it full. That's the only way we pay the bills, is to keep that full, and you're also right. Beaver County is, you know, it's you guys' credit on the programming. Everybody knows you're the best in the state.
Yep.
So-
And that's, you know, these guys do great, and our staff out there do great. There's things that we'll continue to work on and continue to do better with, but that number was gonna fluctuate, and I'll just throw this out here, like last week, without even hardly knowing what was gonna happen, within like a couple of days, we lost 19 inmates. That don't happen very often, but when it does, it's like, holy, it crud. So I called up and I said, well, why don't you guys get us a backfill list, so we can have these already selected, and so when you take, you bring. These guys
Right,
select them.
right.
They've already got a mark that, yes, we want these to come to our jail. And so when the state comes and picks these up and they're transferred for either release or medical, whatever the case may be, they level 2 up because of bad behavior, whatever. They take these, and then we've got a group that we've already, you know, these guys have said, yep, we can handle them, we can take them, they need the program, whatever the case may be. They'd be sitting in Salt Lake and sit there for a couple of days. We'll get 2 of them, then 4 of them, then 6, or maybe 10 or whatever. But sometimes it takes a week to get back to the 340 area, 345, whatever the case may be. So, but also realize when we're increasing it or we're doing a 345, we've been doing that for how long, James?
Well, I did 350 for years and years, and I did 345 probably the last 4 years.
So 4 years, 345.
Ever since JRI.
Yeah, because I
But
was not.
also look at the
Went away.
increase in funding that we've got allowed from the state in the last 4 years as well.
Right, right.
And now with this new.
Now we got that formula
Now
locked
the
in.
formula's in there.
That should lead,
Well, I'm grateful
should
that
steady our,
facilities paid for too, that's
Right.
the other positive
Yeah.
thing, you know.
well, at least that's not a variable we have to deal
No,
with.
exactly.
We got maintenance things and stuff, but things are going pretty good as far as that goes.
What's our count today?
We are statewide, we have 338. There's 3 on out count that they are paying us for. They leave on medical or court runs, and then they're coming back, they still pay us for those.
So that-
Quite a bit.
341, then how many do we have on the referral list, would you say?
We just accepted 10 out of 15, so hopefully they'll be sending us some more.
So if we accepted them, but so did a couple of other jails. And so now there's a person that's in between there saying, well, if they need treatment, so they go to Beaver County, or do they need sex offender treatment, so they go to Kane. So there's still some different things in there, even though we've accepted them, that
Does it guarantee they're coming
Like
in?
the evaluation process that still happens, that it delays it a day or something.
And then when I talked with, Director Honey, they had 60 that they were getting ready to go in and reclassify. The biggest problem is, it's been a couple of years ago when they done it, but the state reclassified their medical, what could leave, what we could handle as far as medical. Because they, even something like sleep insomnia, if they needed CPAPs, or if they were taking injection because of diabetes or just oral and stuff like that, and they're starting to loosen that grip up a little bit, so that gives more to the pool of what we can handle too. Obviously, we don't want somebody that is a big medical threat inside of our facility.
Right.
We just had the one happen when but that guy was physically fit, no medical things at all, and he has a massive heart attack that about was a big deal. Out of the state inmate, they would've took care of stuff, but, you know, somebody that's got congenital heart and all that stuff, we're not gonna take them. We're gonna take the ones maybe that will have to take oral supplements for diabetes and stuff like that. So that grip is loosening up. And then the next thing that I'm going to ask the state to reconsider, and I've talked with Beaver and the guys about it, is when we first built this jail and got everything kind of situated and stuff, they had a transport unit right here. We had a transport unit inside our facility that worked out of Beaver County. They'd pick up their van in the morning, they'd take guys from our jail that needed to go to court or needed to be moved to other jails, and then they would run around the state, pick up the new inmates that were coming to our facility, so we would be backfilled basically in a day sometimes. And so I'm gonna reach out and ask them if they would reconsider, with the amount of movement that we've got and stuff like that, if they would reconsider putting somebody back here. The reason they took it away is because one of the guys that was on it was not coming to work and saying that he was coming to work, and so they took it out of here instead of just fixing the problem. They get rid of one guy, they took the whole situation out of there, but I think it was a benefit for everybody to have somebody in mid-Utah,
Right.
you know, for transport. So I am going to approach them about that again and see if we can get that back here.
Okay.
So I'd like to get this contract signed with these guys. If you guys want, we'll get you a copy of it and everything. I've read down through it, Beaver's looked down through it. It's basically the same thing, other than there's gonna be some other clinicians, hours, and then we're gonna have them do the certification on the domestic violence treatment, and that's what the increase is looking like.
How much is your total?
For the total contract?
Yeah.
$255
$255.
That's for the year though, right?
for the year.
Okay.
For the rest of this, 12 months or for the rest of this year?
That's a 12-month contract.
Okay, so starting now till,
Yeah, it's actually a monthly, just monthly until, so.
What's the
The monthly amount is $21,250.
What's the current on it?
16, I don't remember, 16,500 or something like that. I don't know the exact number. So the increase is specifically, there's no increase to any of the program directions, it's just simply for the extra hours for the treatment. So there's no other increases, just direct therapist costs.
And the one thing that we're looking at on the domestic violence end, to be able to meet them hours, these guys that we currently have can't do it all by themselves. We're gonna bring Pepperdale on to do a few extra hours and then maybe take a big run of the domestic violence portion of it and stuff. So it's adding another therapist plus putting some more hours on Ty and spreading those hours out. And that was a big deal for us with this last meeting we had with them, was that these guys had the therapists that could meet with these guys. So in their contract, they're gonna add another therapist in there for hours. It's kinda like Scott said to me when we was talking about it, he says, we contract with them, but we don't pick their therapist, they have their therapist. Obviously, we screen and make sure everything, but we all know who she is, we all know who Ty is. Be fine out there.
When does this take effect?
Huh?
When does this take effect?
July 1, it was
So
already
I need to, I need to edit
Yeah.
the check I'm gonna cut tomorrow then. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I guess my question would be, do you pay in advance or behind? In advance? Okay.
Oh, no. We should always pay.
Check is always in the mail.
Yeah. All the monthly ones.
we'll
we
see how
pay
the
them
therapist
every week.
do us.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I don't know how long I'll be here, a little while longer, but we'll pass it.
You get a little gray around
We'll-
the
Oh,
edges.
no, for sure, when we get.
Yeah,
get-
probably, we'll take the session first, then we'll decide.
Yeah, yeah, let's do a trial run.
We do a
I
group
think
one.
we're probably gonna be outside for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we go ahead and give them the session.
I do.
They need group
Yeah,
therapy.
for sure. I do wanna mention that the rates you're getting are super cheap, just so you know, I think it's
Compared
important
to-
to say, compared to what you would pay. It's
To
a
contract
pretty
somebody
huge-
else outside of the
Oh,
county or
it's-
what?
Yeah, it's a huge discount, so.
Is there money within your budget to handle the increase, or are you asking to?
We have ran short staffed for the entire year. We have not had a full salaried staff, so we should have money within our budgets, would you not? I can't imagine us not having money in our budgets.
That's a question for Ginger.
Well, it helps,
Huh?
to shift money from one line item to another
Well,
line item.
in payroll.
Contracts are gonna be off, obviously.
In payroll, I haven't had 100% full staff since the first of the year when our budget passed, so I would imagine that.
So you still short on road officer?
We've also,
We're-
you've also had your older guys retiring and replacing them with newer guys with
You've had
less
attrition
money,
money.
lower pay rate, yeah. So he'll have money there too.
You should be looking at that.
Yeah.
It is just the line items we've got to shift because this would be under contract.
When she,
Contracting, right?
when you
Professional service.
not reallocate, what's the word?
Amend,
What's that?
amend.
Amend, yeah, you know, amend the budget and see where everything goes and what's sitting good. If where I'm in the red or where I'm in the black, I would imagine I should be fine.
Yeah, this would be under wages, it would be under professional services.
So it does say here that the monthly reimbursement will start August 1st, is that correct?
Should be July 1st. We're already on it. I'll have to fix that.
Okay, I want to bring that up just because it does say August.
Okay.
Scott, will you get
You
new
made it there.
invoices for us, please?
So we
What's that?
Will you give us new amended invoices for the rest of the year?
Did you hear that, Scott?
That's your error, we get 1 month free.
Not free, let's pay the 16th.
No, it's
Yeah.
a trial period, July.
Anyway, yes, I would
You
ask.
did the contract, I did the contract,
There it is.
I
I'll
did
get it, I'll get it corrected.
And just so you
Send me them back.
guys know, I don't do any of this without running it by these guys back, and I think Beaver, he understands and agrees with, rather the DV portion of this works or not, this has to happen to continue the program that we've got.
Division of Mental Health has taken over the program inside the jails and their requirements. Like, for example, domestic violence, the reason there's no certified domestic violence treatment providers is because they want us to do 40 hours of training a year on just the domestic violence. And so they've cut it back to 24 now, so you have to have the initial 24, and then you have to have 24 specific to domestic violence. When you're a clinician in a small town, you can't afford that much training in one area.
You have on-the-job experience, like, that's what
Well,
you do every day.
My frustration is I've provided domestic violence treatment for almost 30 years now, and so we do it, but we're not certified because we refuse to do the amount of training that are required to do it, because, we have to do training in all the areas.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
to put all of our time in
Yes,
domestic
it's
violence,
just
so that's
one
why there
specific.
are no certified therapists in domestic violence, there's almost none, because it's just too much.
It's just like what the state done to us, we have to have 40 years annual training in different areas, and then they started trying to put specific areas on it, and we was taking the same trainings for autism or mental health stuff. There's only so many law enforcement related trainings to them, so it's taking the exact same training every year. And we finally called them and went and said, hey, this is redundant, and there's other new stuff coming up, new laws we need to get the training on. So it's just like, I can totally agree with what he's saying, there are other areas we need to train in, and so, to keep our certification.
Well, a lot of it because there's a crossover, right, under mental health.
Yeah, sure.
There is, but they don't recognize it.
justify
In
it.
rural communities, we can't afford to do one thing, because on
Yeah.
any given day, I could see depression, anxiety, sex abuse, substance abuse,
Right.
all of them.
All-
You
the
can't even
whole- the whole
imagine the
gamut.
gamut, yeah.
It's like being an MD.
Yeah,
You
no,
gotta
it's like,
cover all that.
it's like the clinic, like,
Yeah.
you don't get to,
Clinic, you're gonna-
you don't get
Primary
to
care.
specialize in one, primary care, you don't get to focus just
Yeah.
on one thing in a rural community, so.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we adjust this contract, I guess, right?
Amend the-
Amend the contract.
amend the contract.
With project assess.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make it unanimous. Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, you guys, appreciate it.
So if you wanna sign it, I can get you the other signature page and email it back.
Yeah, I just signed mine.
Sure. And I'll finish that one.
Just send it back to Ginger, will you?
To Ginger.
Yeah, get it to Jimmy.
Oh, I need all my pictures, sorry.
You wanna keep all his too?
I gotta have mine back.
But, Scott, you can have all the agenda and all his notes and.
I didn't write too many bad things about him.
I look.
Commissioner, can I make one comment?
Yes?
I just want to thank Cody and Liddell for their hard work. They're amazing to work with as department heads, and the way they run their departments and their employees is outstanding. They're great to work with, and I've appreciated them. They go above and beyond all the time, and they work with me so well, and I really appreciate what they do with their people. Like it's the environment out there is great, and I love what they've done, so.
And it makes what we do a lot easier.
Sure.
I would
Thank
echo
you.
that,
Yeah.
and
Appreciate
and I
it.
do think some of the stuff Sheriff Black is on is really, he's on to something here
Yeah.
that could be very beneficial long-term for the future, so. I like that he's thinking about it.
Oh, geez.
Let's go to lunch now.
Take a picture.
Thank you.
Let's stop back on that one. Thanks, you
I'll
guys.
give it lunch, let's take it.
All right, I'm gonna recess just 3 to 5 minutes, then we'll be right back, finish up a few things. And Kyle, I'll give you some minutes too in a second, okay?
How are you, Commissioner? I'm joined by you 24/7.
Oh, I did, because I was like,
It just is a new report that I didn't know that was like this,
that's a cool picture.
Anyway, this just declares him. All right, okay. Yep. Thank you.
Mike can say that one.
Well, it is, because there will be.
Right.
Right.
It's just a little bit further.
I will.
Oh, that's very good.
A little further away.
Well, yeah, because we were trying to get the whole, like,
Jen said she worked in the planning and, but she didn't say who.
but the fences and the corner.
I do too. Maybe. How do you feel? Relieved? I'm like excited, sad. Did you know that someone's not showing?
We did. I just emailed her.
Looks like a middle, looks like what we
We're
look at.
sending you on vacation, we haven't.
That looks like what we
Oh,
look
my gosh.
Do they do a shared calendar or anything like that?
Apparently not. I texted the commissioner and told her that she had that.
Yeah, look at this.
How are you two?
Good, how are you?
Good. How's the new road out there?
Other than the speeding people, it's fabulous. It's so
It
fun.
may help when they get some speed limit signs up.
Yeah.
Okay. They haven't got those up yet, then?
No, they've
I
got
see the
one.
little post.
Okay.
They've got one in front of Menderfield?
So now it's like.
Well, that was a temporary.
Yeah.
They did have one